My son was crying in pain, clutching his stomach, and I knew immediately, appendicitis. I rushed him to the ER, called my family begging them to come, and my mother said, "I have a hair appointment, don't be so dramatic." 2 hours later, I watched my baby go into surgery completely alone. That was the moment everything changed, because 3 days after that, they had the audacity to ask me for something that made my blood run cold. I am Rebecca. I'm 34 years old, a single mother working in finance, and I have a beautiful 7-year-old son named Mason. Last Wednesday started like any normal morning until everything fell apart. And 3 days later, after sitting alone in a hospital room while my son fought through emergency surgery, I received a text message that made my blood run cold. But before I tell you how my own family betrayed me in the worst possible way, and then had the audacity to demand $10,000 from me, I need you to understand how we got here. Have you ever been the person everyone turns to when they need help? But the moment you need them, they all disappear? Hit that like button if you know exactly what I'm talking about. And stay with me, because what happened next will shock you. That Wednesday morning, I was in my kitchen making Mason's lunch. Turkey sandwich with no crusts, apple slices, and his favorite chocolate chip cookie. It was our routine. My son walked in, and immediately I knew something was wrong. His face was pale, almost gray, and he was clutching his stomach. "Mommy," he whispered, tears forming in his eyes. "My tummy really hurts." At first, I thought maybe it was a stomach bug. There had been one going around his second-grade class. I felt his forehead, no fever. I gave him some water and told him to sit down. But within 20 minutes, Mason was curled up on the couch, crying in a way I had never heard before. The pain was getting worse, concentrated on his right side. My heart started racing. Right side abdominal pain. I work in finance, not medicine, but I'm a mother, and mothers know. Appendicitis. The word flashed in my mind like a warning light. I didn't hesitate for even a second. I grabbed my phone, called my boss, told her I had a family emergency, scooped Mason into my arms, and drove straight to the emergency room. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Mason was crying softly in the back seat, asking me if he was going to be okay. "You're going to be fine, baby," I told him, though my voice was trembling. "Mommy's taking care of you." The ER triage nurse took one look at my son and immediately brought us back. No waiting room, no forms to fill out first. That's when I knew this was serious. Within an hour, a doctor came in. Young guy, probably in his 30s with kind eyes. His name tag read Dr. Bennett, Mrs. Carter. He said gently, "Your instincts were correct. Mason has acute appendicitis. We need to operate within the next 2 hours to remove his appendix before it ruptures. The good news is, this is a very common procedure, but he will need to stay in the hospital for at least 2 to 3 days afterward so we can monitor for infection." The room started spinning. Surgery. My baby needed surgery. "Is he going to be okay?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "He's going to be just fine," Dr. Bennett assured me. "But we need to move quickly. The surgical team is being prepped right now." As they began preparing Mason for pre-op testing, wheeling him down the hallway in a bed that looked way too big for his small body, I stepped into the corridor and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial. I called my mother first. "Mom," I said when she answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's Mason. He has appendicitis. We're at Memorial Hospital right now. They're prepping him for emergency surgery within the next 2 hours." "Mom, I'm terrified. Can you and Dad please come?" There was a pause on the other end, a long pause. Then my mother's voice came through, and I will never forget the tone. "Oh, honey, today I have my standing hair appointment at 11, and your father was planning to clean out the gutters. It's been on the calendar for weeks." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "Mom," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm, "your grandson is having emergency surgery. The hair appointment can wait. The gutters can wait. Please, I need you here." Another pause. "Well, let me talk to your father and see what we can figure out. What time did you say the surgery was?" "Within the next 2 hours. Please hurry. We'll see what we can do, Rebecca. Don't be so dramatic. Appendectomies are routine these days. Thousands of people get them. He'll be fine." She hung up. I stood there in that hospital hallway, staring at my phone, feeling something crack inside my chest. But I didn't have time to process it. I had to get back to Mason. Next, I called my younger sister, Amanda. It went straight to voicemail. I left a message, my voice shaking. Amanda, it's Becca. Mason has appendicitis. He's having emergency surgery at Memorial Hospital. Please, if you get this, can you come? I really need someone here. Then I sent her a text with the same information. No response. I walked back into Mason's room. He was lying on the bed, looking so small and scared, an IV already in his little arm. When he saw me, he tried to smile. Mommy, are Grandma and Grandpa coming? I forced myself to smile back. They're trying, sweetie. They're going to try really hard, but deep down I already knew. They weren't coming. The next few hours were the longest of my life. Mason was taken into surgery, and I was directed to a waiting area. Have you ever been in a hospital waiting room during a family crisis? It's this strange, awful place where time moves both too slowly and too fast. I sat there alone. Around me I could see other families. A husband holding his wife's hand, both of them looking worried but together. Grandparents distracting young siblings with coloring books and snacks. A whole family clustered around one man, all of them supporting each other. And then there was me, alone, checking my phone every 3 minutes, hoping for some response from my family. After about an hour, my mother finally texted back, "Let us know when he's out of surgery. Your father's back is acting up today, so driving would be difficult. That's it." That was the message. No, we love you. No, we're praying for him. No, we're so sorry we can't be there. Just an excuse, nothing from Amanda. A nurse noticed me sitting by myself. Her name tag said Janet. She was older, maybe in her 50s, with kind eyes that reminded me of my grandmother who passed away years ago. "Honey," she said gently, sitting down next to me. "Is someone coming to sit with you?" I shook my head, not trusting myself to speak without crying. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "That must be really hard. But I want you to know, our surgical team is excellent. Dr. Bennett has done hundreds of these procedures. Your little boy is in the best possible hands." She brought me a cup of coffee and a small pack of crackers. "You need to keep your strength up," she said. "When he wakes up, he's going to need his mama." I thanked her. My eyes burning with tears I refused to let fall. 2 hours and 14 minutes later, I watched every minute tick by on that waiting room clock. Dr. Bennett came through the double doors. I jumped to my feet. "The surgery went perfectly," he said with a warm smile. "We caught it before it ruptured, which is great news. Mason did wonderfully. He's in recovery now, and you'll be able to see him in about 20 minutes. The relief was so overwhelming I nearly collapsed. I thanked him over and over, probably sounding like a crazy person. As soon as Dr. Bennett left, I sent a group text to my parents and Amanda. Mason's surgery went perfectly. He's in recovery. Doctor says he did great. My mother responded with a thumbs up emoji. A thumbs up emoji. My father sent back, "Great news. Tell the little guy we love him." Amanda finally responded an hour later. "Glad he's okay." Not one of them asked if I was okay. Not one of them asked if I needed anything. Not one of them asked when they could visit. When I finally got to see Mason in the recovery room, he was groggy from the anesthesia, his small body looking so fragile in that hospital bed, connected to an IV and monitoring equipment. When his eyes fluttered open and he saw me, he gave me the weakest little smile. "Hi, Mommy." I nearly broke down right there. "Hi, baby. You were so brave. The doctor fixed your tummy, and you're going to be all better soon." He looked around the room with sleepy, confused eyes. "Is Grandma here?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Not right now, sweetheart. But they sent their love. They're so proud of how brave you've been. Will they come tomorrow?" "Maybe," I lied. "Get some rest now, okay?" He drifted back to sleep, and I sat in the chair next to his bed, holding his hand, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I let myself cry. The next 2.5 days were the hardest of my life. And I don't just mean the exhaustion or the stress, I mean the profound loneliness of realizing that when it really mattered, I had no one. The hospital gave me a recliner next to Mason's bed. It was one of those medical recliners that's technically a chair, but supposedly converts into something you can sleep in. Let me tell you, I don't know who they're fooling with that. I barely slept. Every time Mason stirred or made a sound, I was instantly awake, checking on him, making sure he was okay. Mason was in pain, despite the medication. He couldn't move much because of the incision. He couldn't eat solid food for the first day. He was bored and uncomfortable and scared, and all I could do was hold his hand and try to make him smile. But here's what made it even harder. I had to keep working. almost theatrical. My father sat in his leather recliner, his throne, basically, where he'd held court during every family discussion since I was a child. Amanda and a tall, well-dressed man I assumed was Tyler sat on the couch. Everyone looked up as I entered. The mood was hostile. You could feel it in the air. "Sit down," my father ordered, pointing to a dining chair that had been placed opposite everyone else. The literal hot seat. I remained standing. "Before we start, I want to be clear about something. I'm here to discuss the pattern of financial and emotional exploitation that has characterized our family relationships for years. I'm not here to be guilted, manipulated, or bullied into providing money for Amanda's wedding." Amanda shot to her feet, her face flushed. "Exploitation? Are you serious right now? Just because I asked for help with my wedding? This isn't about just the dress, Amanda. This is about years of one-sided support. It's about the fact that none of you showed up when Mason was in surgery. And it's about the unauthorized withdrawals from an account I created for actual emergencies." Tyler spoke for the first time, looking confused. "What unauthorized withdrawals? What account?" I watched as my mother quickly interjected, "That's not relevant to why we're here. Tyler, we're here to discuss Rebecca's refusal to help with wedding expenses." "Actually," I said, speaking directly to Tyler, "I think it's very relevant. Several years ago, I created an emergency fund for my parents. I deposited $5,000 initially and added to it over time. The intention was that if they faced a genuine crisis, medical emergency, job loss, something catastrophic, the money would be there." Tyler was listening carefully, his expression neutral but attentive. "Without my knowledge," I continued, "they've been making regular withdrawals over the past year. Small amounts, but they add up to almost $4,000, including $600 withdrawn last week, the day Mason was in surgery, with a memo line reading, 'Advance for A's dress shopping.'" Tyler's eyebrows shot up. He turned to look at Amanda. "Is this true? You told me your sister refused to contribute to our wedding. You didn't mention your parents were already using her money without permission." Amanda looked trapped, her eyes darting between Tyler and me. "It's not like that. Mom and Dad said the account was for family needs, and the wedding is a family need." "A $10,000 dress is not a need," I said firmly. Tyler's expression had changed. "10,000? Amanda, you told me the dress budget was $2,000. I already thought that was excessive." The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Amanda's face went from red to white. My mother looked furious that I'd revealed this information. My father shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "I think," I said calmly, "it's time we all put our cards on the table." I pulled out my folder and handed copies of the spreadsheet to everyone in the room. "This is a record of every financial contribution I've made to this family over the past 10 years. Every payment, every loan, every crisis I solved." I watched their faces as they looked at the numbers. $53,820, I said clearly. "That includes helping refinance this house, paying off Amanda's credit card debt, twice, covering Dad's medical bills, and dozens of smaller loans that were never repaid." Tyler was staring at the spreadsheet, his jaw tight. "What this spreadsheet doesn't include," I continued, "is any record of emotional support flowing in the other direction." I turned to face them all. "Last week, my 7-year-old son had emergency appendix surgery. I called each of you, begging for support. Not money, just your presence. None of you came. Not once during his 3-day hospital stay." My mother finally looked ashamed, but my father maintained his defensive posture. "Mason asked me if his grandparents were mad at him," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "A child who just had surgery thought he'd done something wrong because his family didn't visit." "We explained why we couldn't come," my father said. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? Because 3 days after you couldn't visit your grandson in the hospital, you demanded $10,000 for a wedding dress. How exactly should I interpret those priorities?" I turned to Tyler. "Did you know about Mason's surgery?" He shook his head slowly. "No, I had no idea." Amanda shot me a venomous look. "Stop trying to make Tyler think badly of us. This is just your jealousy talking. You've always resented that Mom and Dad love me more." The room went deadly silent. The truth that had always been understood but never spoken aloud now hung in the air between us. My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. Amanda, that's not true. We love both our daughters equally, but the damage was done. Tyler was now looking at his fiancée with different eyes. My mother couldn't meet anyone's gaze. I took a deep breath. Family, I said quietly, means showing up for each other. It means celebrating successes and providing support during crises. It means care flows in both directions, not just one way. I looked each of them in the eye. For years, I've been expected to give financially, emotionally, practically, while receiving token acknowledgement in return. That ends today. I'm not cutting contact. I'm not saying I'll never help in a genuine emergency, but I am establishing boundaries. No more financial support without genuine relationship. No more one-sided giving. No more treating me like an ATM while ignoring my son. My voice was steady, calm, final. The money I've saved is for Mason's future and our security. It's not available for designer dresses or any other non-essential expenses. The emergency account will remain frozen until we rebuild trust, which will take time and genuine effort from all of you. If you want a relationship with me and Mason, you're welcome to it. But it must be based on mutual care and respect, not financial transactions. I gathered my purse and folder. The choice is yours. I walked toward the door. No one spoke. The silence was deafening. Just as I reached the door, Tyler's voice stopped me. Rebecca. I turned. He stood up, his expression serious but respectful. I want to apologize. I had no idea about any of this, especially about your son's surgery. For what it's worth, I think you're absolutely right about family priorities. I nodded, genuinely appreciating his words. Amanda looked shocked, her mouth hanging open. As I drove home, something strange happened. Instead of feeling upset or anxious, I felt light, as if a weight I'd carried for so long I'd forgotten it was there had finally been lifted from my shoulders. 2 months have passed since that confrontation. In my parents' living room, 2 months of silence, of rebuilding, of learning what it means to truly put yourself and your child first. Mason healed completely from his surgery. Within 3 weeks, he was back to his energetic self, riding his bike, building elaborate Lego cities across our living room floor, begging for playdates with his friends. The physical healing was straightforward. The emotional healing has been more complex. For the first 3 weeks after the confrontation, there was complete silence from my family. No calls, no texts, no social media interactions, nothing. And you know what? I didn't miss it. The constant anxiety of waiting for the next financial request, the background stress of wondering when I'd be needed again, it was gone. I used that time to focus on us, Mason and me, our little family of 2. I started seeing a therapist. Her name is Dr. Morgan, and she specializes in family dynamics and boundary setting. Our weekly sessions have been eye-opening. What you're describing, she explained during our second session, is a classic family system with rigid roles. You were assigned the role of provider and caretaker. Amanda was assigned the role of the one being taken care of. Breaking out of these roles threatens the entire system, which is why the backlash was so severe. She helped me understand that I hadn't just been generous, I'd been enabling dysfunction. By constantly rescuing everyone, I prevented them from experiencing consequences. I prevented growth. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, Dr. Morgan told me. It's necessary, it's healthy, and it's the only way relationships can become genuine. The financial freedom has been unexpectedly wonderful. Without the constant drain of family emergencies, I've been able to plan things I'd only dreamed about. I booked a summer vacation for Mason and me, our first real vacation that isn't just visiting relatives. A week at a beach resort with pools and kids' activities. Mason talks about it constantly. His excitement is worth more than any wedding dress. I also started the home renovation I'd been postponing for years. Nothing extravagant, just updating our worn kitchen cabinets and replacing the stained carpet with hardwood floors. Making our house feel like our home. The first crack in the family silence came 6 weeks after our confrontation. A letter arrived. An actual handwritten letter, not an email or text. From Amanda. I sat on my back porch with tea, steeling myself before opening it. Dear Rebecca, it began. Tyler and I have postponed our wedding. After our family meeting, He had a lot of questions about our financial situation and expectations. We've been having long, difficult conversations about priorities and values. She went on to acknowledge, grudgingly, that she'd been oblivious to Mason's surgery and health challenges. I realize I haven't been the kind of aunt I should have been, she wrote. I can't change the past, but I'm trying to think more carefully about how my choices affect others. Tyler has helped me see things differently. It wasn't a profound apology. It wasn't everything I deserved. But coming from Amanda, it was significant. She closed by saying she wasn't asking for anything, just opening a door to possibly rebuild some kind of relationship in the future. I wrote back briefly. Thanked her for the letter. Expressed hope that her conversations with Tyler would lead to a stronger foundation. I didn't rush to forgive. I didn't pretend everything was fine. But I left the door open a crack. A week later, a birthday card arrived for Mason from my parents. Inside was a gift card to his favorite toy store and a simple note. We'd like to take Mason out for ice cream sometime, if that's okay with you. We love him and miss him. No demands, no guilt, just a small olive branch. Mason was thrilled about both the gift card and the ice cream offer. Can I see Grandma and Grandpa? He asked hopefully. Maybe, I told him. Let's start with ice cream and see how it goes. I'm proceeding cautiously. Dr. Morgan helped me develop a framework for limited, controlled interactions, ways to test whether real change is possible without exposing Mason or myself to further harm. Last Saturday, we met my parents at a local ice cream shop. Mason was excited but also nervous. He could feel the tension even if he didn't fully understand it. It was awkward at first. My mother looked older, more tired. My father seemed smaller somehow, less commanding, but they focused entirely on Mason, asked about school, listened to him talk about his Lego projects, complimented his bravery during the surgery. My mother even teared up when Mason showed her the small scar from his incision. We should have been there, she said quietly, looking at me. We should have been there for both of you. It wasn't enough. Not yet, but it was something. The visit lasted 30 minutes. When it was time to leave, Mason hugged them both, and my father slipped him an extra $5 for next time. Next time? Mason asked me hopefully in the car. We'll see, buddy. We'll see. Meanwhile, I've been building a different kind of support system. My work colleagues have become real friends. 2 other single moms in my office, and I now have a standing monthly dinner date. We take turns watching each other's kids, swapping advice, supporting each other. Mrs. Jenkins from next door has become like a surrogate grandmother to Mason. She teaches him to bake, lets him help in her garden, listens to his stories with genuine interest. Last week, he proudly brought home chocolate chip cookies they'd made together, saving the biggest one for me. Mrs. Jenkins says family is the people who show up, he told me seriously, not just the people you're related to. Out of the mouths of babes, Mason himself has shown remarkable resilience through all of this. Children are perceptive. He knew something was wrong with our family dynamics long before I explicitly addressed it. Recently, at bedtime, he asked me a question. Mommy, is it okay to say no to someone, even if they really want something? I sat on his bed. Yes, buddy, it's okay to say no, even to people you care about if what they're asking isn't right for you to give. Why? Marcus at school wanted my new action figure. He said best friends always share everything. But I didn't want to give it to him because it's special to me. Was that okay? I pulled him close. That was absolutely okay. Real friendship isn't about taking things from each other. It's about respecting each other's feelings and boundaries. He nodded seriously. That's what I thought. I told Marcus we could play with it together at recess, but it would stay mine. He got mad at first, but then he was okay with it. In that moment, I realized my 7-year-old son had already learned the lesson it took me 34 years to grasp. Healthy relationships require boundaries. And love without respect isn't really love at all. It's been 8 months now since Mason's surgery. 8 months since everything changed. Amanda and Tyler did eventually get married, but it was a much smaller, simpler wedding than originally planned. They invited me. I went with Mason and we stayed for 2 hours. Amanda's dress was beautiful, not Vera Wang, but lovely. She seemed genuinely happy. Tyler pulled me aside at the reception. Thank you, he said. For what? For being honest that night. for showing us what we were becoming. Amanda and I went to couples counseling. We've worked through a lot. The wedding we had today, this is who we really are, not the fantasy version her parents wanted. I appreciated that more than he knew. My parents and I have established a new normal. We see each other about once a month. Usually, it's something Mason-centered, a school play, his birthday party, a trip to the zoo. The visits are pleasant but not deep. Trust rebuilds slowly, if it rebuilds at all. My mother tried once, about 4 months ago, to ask if I could help my father with some car repairs. I could see her struggle with the request, knowing it might damage our fragile new relationship. "Mom," I said gently, "if Dad needs help finding a good mechanic or comparing quotes, I'm happy to advise. But I'm not providing money. That boundary hasn't changed." She nodded, looking disappointed but not angry. "I understand." That was progress. The emergency account remains frozen. The money I left in it, $100, sits there as a symbol. I told them if there's ever a genuine crisis, they can call me and we'll discuss it. But the days of unlimited access to my finances are over. Amanda got a job. A real job in marketing. It doesn't pay amazingly, but she's supporting herself. She and Tyler are learning to budget, to plan, to build a life based on their actual resources rather than fantasy expectations. Last month, she sent Mason a birthday card with $20 inside and a note saying she was sorry she hadn't been a better aunt. It was a small gesture, but it mattered. Dr. Morgan and I still meet every other week. She's helped me process not just the recent events, but patterns that go back to childhood. The favoritism I normalized. The emotional neglect I accepted as normal. The way I learned to measure my worth by my usefulness to others. "You're rewriting the script," she told me recently. "Not just for you, but for Mason. You're teaching him what healthy relationships look like." That's generational healing. The money I once would have sent for Amanda's dress, that $10,000, went into Mason's college fund. It's growing steadily, protected by the trust I established. Someday when he's ready for college, he'll have options. Real options. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled things. If I wish I'd been less harsh, more forgiving, more understanding, my answer is always the same: no. Not even a little. Because here's what I've learned. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's honest. Protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's necessary. And teaching people how to treat you isn't manipulation. It's self-respect. For 34 years, I accepted the role my family assigned me. The responsible one, the provider, the fixer, the ATM. But that role came at a cost. It cost me my self-worth. It cost me genuine relationships. It almost cost me the ability to teach my son what healthy love looks like. That day in the hospital, sitting alone while Mason was in surgery, I hit a breaking point. But it wasn't a breakdown. It was a breakthrough. I realized I had a choice. I could continue the pattern, continue sacrificing myself on the altar of family, obligation, continue teaching Mason that love means giving until you're empty. Or I could choose differently. I chose differently. And you know what happened? The sky didn't fall. My family didn't disown me permanently. The world didn't end. Instead, something better emerged. Not perfect relationships. We're not there yet, and we may never be. But honest ones. Relationships with boundaries. Connections based on mutual respect rather than financial obligation. Last week, Mason and I were sitting on our back porch, watching the sunset. He was telling me about a conflict at school. A friend who kept asking to borrow his things and not returning them. "What should I do, Mommy?" He asked. "What do you think you should do?" He thought for a moment. "I think I should tell him that I like being his friend, but I can't keep lending him things if he doesn't give them back. And if he gets mad, that's okay. I can find friends who respect my stuff." I pulled him close and kissed the top of his head. "That sounds exactly right, buddy. He's learning. At 7 years old, he's learning lessons I didn't learn until I was 34. He's learning that boundaries are healthy. That respect is necessary. That love doesn't mean giving everything away, and that's worth more than any amount of money I could have given my family. If you're still watching, thank you. Thank you for listening to my story, for staying with me through this entire journey. I know it was long. I know it was painful in places, but I wanted to be honest about what financial and emotional exploitation in families really looks like. It's not always dramatic. It's often subtle. Small requests that add up over time. Guilt trips disguised as love. Manipulation wrapped in the language of family obligation. And here's what I want you to understand. If you see yourself in my story, you're not alone. So many people are living this same pattern right now. Being the responsible one, the fixer, the person everyone turns to when they need help, but who can't find support when they need it themselves. Maybe it's a parent who constantly needs money. Maybe it's a sibling who never grew up. Maybe it's extended family who sees you as a resource rather than a person. Whatever your version looks like, I want you to know you have permission to set boundaries. You have permission to say no. You have permission to protect yourself and your children. You have permission to build a life that isn't constantly drained by other people's poor choices. And if anyone tells you that setting boundaries makes you selfish, that person is probably the one who's been benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Real love, genuine family connection, doesn't require you to sacrifice your well-being. Real love doesn't keep score, but it also doesn't flow in only one direction forever. I've learned some hard truths over these past 8 months. First, you can't fix people who don't want to be fixed. For years, I kept bailing out my family, thinking that if I just helped them one more time, they'd finally get it together. But you can't solve problems for people who aren't ready to solve them for themselves. All you can do is protect yourself from becoming a casualty of their dysfunction. Second, boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. I didn't cut my family off completely. I didn't say never again to any relationship. What I did was establish clear terms. If you want access to my life, my resources, my energy, you have to treat me with respect. You have to show up. You have to care. The door is open to anyone willing to walk through it honestly. But I'm no longer leaving it wide open for people to come and go as they please, taking what they want and leaving nothing behind. Third, financial abuse is real, even in families. Especially in families. We talk a lot about emotional abuse, physical abuse, but financial exploitation often gets overlooked, especially when it's parents or siblings doing it. But taking advantage of someone's financial resources, using guilt and obligation to extract money, accessing accounts without permission, that's abuse. It doesn't matter that they're family. It doesn't matter that they need it. Abuse is abuse. Fourth, your children are watching. This might be the most important lesson of all. Mason was learning from my example. He was learning that love means giving until you're empty. That family means accepting mistreatment. That his worth would be measured by what he could provide to others. I had to change my behavior not just for me, but to show him a different way. To teach him that he deserves respect, that his boundaries matter, that his needs are valid, and finally, you deserve relationships that add to your life, not drain it. This sounds obvious, but it took me 3 decades to really understand it. You deserve people who celebrate your successes, who show up during your crises, who care about your children, who see you as a whole person, not just as a solution to their problems. It's been just over a year now since that Sunday morning text demanding $10,000 for a wedding dress. Mason is 8 years old now, thriving in 3rd grade. He's healthy, happy, and remarkably well-adjusted. Last week, his teacher told me he's one of the kindest kids in the class, always helping other students, but also standing up for himself when needed. That balance makes me prouder than any academic achievement could. Last month, we took that vacation I promised him, a week at a beach resort. Mason learned to swim in the ocean, built sandcastles, made friends with other kids at the hotel. We ate ice cream for breakfast one morning, just because we could. We stayed up late watching the stars. On our last night there, as we sat on the beach watching the sunset, Mason said something that made my heart full. "Mommy, this has been the best week ever." "I'm so glad, buddy." "What made it so special?" He thought for a moment. "Because it was just us. And you were happy the whole time. You weren't stressed or worried. You were just happy." That's when I realized my stress, my constant state of anxiety about the next family crisis, he'd been carrying that too. By setting boundaries, by protecting our peace, I hadn't just freed myself. I'd freed him. My relationship with my parents has stabilized into something manageable. We see each other about twice a month now. The interactions are careful, cordial, but there's a foundation of honesty that didn't exist before. My father actually apologized 3 months ago. We were at a park watching Mason play on the playground, and he said quietly, "I'm sorry we weren't there when he had surgery." That was wrong. We were wrong. It wasn't eloquent. It wasn't everything I needed to hear. But it was something. My mother is trying. She calls now just to talk, not to ask for anything. She remembers Mason's school events and asks how they went. She sent me flowers on my birthday last month with a card that said, "I'm proud of the mother you've become." Small steps. But they matter. Amanda and I are rebuilding slowly. She and Tyler had their first baby 2 months ago, a daughter named Sophie. I visited them in the hospital, and I watched my sister hold her newborn with this look of overwhelmed love and terror that I remembered so well from when Mason was born. "I don't know how you did this alone," she whispered to me. Tyler steps away for 10 minutes and I panic. "I can't imagine doing everything by myself." "You just do," I told her, "because you love them more than anything else." She looked at me then, really looked at me and said, "I'm sorry for everything, for not being there, for not understanding, for being so focused on myself that I couldn't see what you were dealing with." It was the apology I'd needed. Better late than never. I'm her emergency contact now when Tyler's unavailable. She calls me for advice about baby stuff. I send her articles about newborn care and remind her to sleep when the baby sleeps. We're not best friends. We may never be. But we're becoming something real. The emergency account? It still sits frozen with that symbolic $100. I've told them that if there's ever a genuine emergency, medical crisis, job loss, something truly catastrophic, they should call me. But so far, they haven't needed to. My father found a part-time job to supplement their retirement income. My mother started selling crafts on Etsy. Amanda and Tyler are budgeting carefully, living within their means. Turns out, when you stop enabling people, they figure out how to help themselves. The money I've saved over the past year, the money that would have disappeared into the family vacuum, has gone toward building our life. Mason's college fund is growing. I started my own investment portfolio. We upgraded to a better car, one with excellent safety ratings. I even started a small fund for adventures, unexpected opportunities, experiences, memories. Last week, Mrs. Jenkins, remember her, our neighbor who watched Mason during the confrontation, fell and broke her hip. I didn't hesitate. I helped arrange her care, drove her to appointments, had Mason make her get well cards. We brought her dinners and kept her company. "You're so generous," she told me one evening. "Your family is lucky to have you." "You're my family too," I told her. Family isn't just who you're related to. It's who shows up, who cares, who's there when it matters. She patted my hand with tears in her eyes. "That's the truth, dear. That's the truth. So here's what I want to leave you with today. If you're in a situation like I was, being used, being taken for granted, being treated like an ATM by people who claim to love you, please hear this. It's not your job to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. It's not selfish to have boundaries. It's healthy. It's not cruel to say no. It's honest. It's not wrong to prioritize your own children and your own peace. It's necessary. I wasted years of my life feeling guilty for not giving enough, not doing enough, not being enough for my family. But the truth is, I was always enough. They just didn't appreciate it. They took my generosity for granted and mistook my kindness for weakness. When I finally stood up for myself, when I finally said no more, they called me selfish. They called me cruel. They threatened to cut me off. But you know what happened? The relationships that were real survived. The relationships that were based only on what I could provide fell apart. And that's exactly how it should be. Not everyone is going to understand your boundaries. Not everyone is going to respect them. Some people will push back hard, will try to manipulate you into going back to the old pattern. Stand firm anyway, because on the other side of those boundaries is peace, is freedom, is the ability to build a life based on genuine connection rather than obligation and guilt. Your worth is not measured by what you can give to others. Your value is not determined by how many problems you can solve or how much money you can provide. You are worthy of love simply because you exist. Your children deserve to see you valued and respected, and your future self will thank you for the boundaries you set today. I think about that Sunday morning a year ago, standing in my kitchen, reading that text demanding $10,000 while my son who had just been through surgery, was asking for pancakes. That was my line in the sand. My moment of clarity, what's yours going to be? Maybe you're experiencing it right now. Maybe you're sitting there watching this, feeling that sick recognition in your stomach because you're living this same pattern. Maybe you've been the responsible one, the fixer, the ATM for years, and you're exhausted. If that's you, I want you to know, change is possible. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. There will be pushback and guilt trips and people telling you you've changed as if that's a bad thing. But on the other side of that discomfort is a life where you're not constantly anxious about the next crisis, where you can plan for your own future, where your children see you standing up for yourself, where relationships are based on mutual care rather than one-sided extraction. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Would I do it again? Without hesitation. Do I miss the old family dynamics? Not even a little bit. Because the family I'm building now, with Mason, with real friends, with people who genuinely show up, is worth so much more than the family I was assigned by birth. Money cannot buy family loyalty. I learned that the hard way. I gave $54,000 over 10 years and couldn't buy a single hospital visit when my son needed surgery. But you know what money can buy? Security for your children, opportunities for their future, peace of mind, freedom from constant anxiety. That's where my money goes now. And I've never been happier. So if you're facing a similar situation, if you're being pressured to give more than you should, if you're exhausted from being everyone's solution while having no one to turn to yourself, I give you permission, not that you need it, but I give it anyway, to say no, to set boundaries, to protect your peace, to prioritize your children, to build the life you deserve rather than the one everyone else expects from you. Your family might not understand. They might get angry. They might try to guilt you or manipulate you or threaten you. Stand firm anyway, because the relationships worth having will survive your boundaries. And the ones that don't survive? They were never real to begin with. Thank you for watching my story. Thank you for staying until the end. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Someone who's struggling with family boundaries. Someone who's being taken advantage of. Someone who needs permission to put themselves first. Leave a comment below telling me your story. Have you had to set difficult boundaries with family? How did you handle it? What was the outcome? I read every comment and I promise you you're not alone in this struggle. And remember, you deserve relationships that add to your life, not drain it. You deserve to be valued, not just used. You deserve peace. Protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's survival. It's self-respect, and it's the greatest gift you can give yourself and your children. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves. And remember, family is supposed to show up. If they don't, that's on them, not you.